co-host Claire Connor is unable to join today, but we have three wonderful guests joining us live in the OACR. Everyone, we'll go around, introduce yourself, because we're super excited to have you on the show.
Hey, I'm Tomas Moran, a first year here at Northwestern, studying journalism, political science, and Spanish, and I'm super hyped to be here.
What's up? I'm Sivaraman. I'm a freshman like Tomas, and I'm studying journalism here at Northwestern, and yeah, super pumped.
Hey everyone, I'm Dowling, also a freshman here at Northwestern, studying journalism and linguistics. Excited to be here.
Super excited to have you guys on the show. This is going to be electric. This is one of the things that I was most excited about hosting this show, was having freshmen like you guys on, getting to meet you guys, and we're now getting it rolling. We had Calvin was on last week. Now we got you three, so very excited to get started. And let's just get right into it, because it was a pretty fun weekend for Northwestern. And we'll start with football, because a pretty shocking win for the Cats. I was, in fact, in attendance. I am, for those of you who don't know, from the D.C., Maryland area. So I literally had a class that ended at 1 o'clock on Friday, rushed out of my class, got to O'Hare, flew across the country, got to D.C., the airport, at 7 o'clock, rushed from 7 to 8 to get to College Park, and somehow I got to the game on time. And I saw an absolute beatdown, not what I was expecting in any way whatsoever. Northwestern beating Maryland 37 to 10. 37 to 10 as 10-point underdogs. Really incredible stuff from the Cats. So I'm going to swing it over to you guys. What impressed you most about Northwestern? What facet of their game to you guys made the biggest impact in that huge 37 to 10 victory?
I think I'll take this one first. I think for me, I mean, Northwestern went into the fourth quarter one score up, right? And really that forced fumble by Bastion and the touchdown, I think, really turned like the face of the game around. I think like third quarter around there, like Northwestern was losing a bit of momentum, like Maryland was getting back into the game, and I think really that fumble really changed things. And like the defensive stops like throughout the fourth quarter really enforced that. Honestly, as far as the upset goes, like I thought, like, as far as Northwestern's schedule around this time of year, like, the way it looked, I thought if there was a game that Northwestern had to win, it was going to be this one, if they wanted to turn their season around. And I think, like, the way they did it, of, you know, like, really hammering home in the fourth quarter, like, really builds momentum for the rest of their schedule. Like, I think that's my takeaway from the game. I'll let you guys talk about it.
I think they were incredibly efficient. I mean, look at the numbers. They had less yards than Maryland. They had 10 first downs. Maryland had 25. Right?
Yeah.
And look at those numbers. It looks like Maryland destroyed Northwestern. So they did so much with relatively little. You know, you look at Louse's numbers, right? You know, only 203 yards compared to Edwards' 296, right? You think, okay, Maryland had the ball more. They had more first downs. They, you know, gained more yardage. But at the end of the day, Northwestern got in the end zone more, right? I mean, 4 turnovers, that was huge. Right, and they just were able to take advantage of almost every single opportunity they had in the red zone, and that was huge.
Yeah, I got to jump in and agree on that. I mean, really, when you look at the stats, it tells a very different story than what happened. I got to agree with you. So, like, if there's a game, you know, in the upcoming schedule that we had to win, it would have been this one. It's great. Maryland's defense a little bit weaker than other teams we've seen, which makes me a little bit nervous going into our upcoming games. But I think it's a good win.
Yeah, I mean, a great win because, as I said, I mean, Maryland is a team that came to this game feeling pretty good, especially about their offense. Billy Edwards looking like a decent quarterback. I mean, not necessarily the best guy in the Big Ten, but, like, he was up there. I mean, he was putting up some pretty good numbers, not against the strongest of opponents, but he was doing what he could against what he was dealt. And Maryland, they had a strong receiving core led by Ty Felton, who was far and away the best receiver in the Big Ten, and he was pretty quiet on Friday night. Billy Edwards had a decent start, but by the end of the game looked kind of rattled. And really, Northwestern, they just had Maryland really in their own heads. I mean, you guys, I'm sure, saw on special teams, Maryland making some quite silly mistakes. And that's the thing that you really love to see if you're Northwestern, because they're making other teams make mental mistakes. but they're playing a clean football game. And that's huge. And I think that's that David Braun uses the complementary football term a lot. And that's really, I think, what Northwestern has seen since this David Braun era has begun. Just good team football. Everyone's buying into the system. And when it clicks like it did on Friday, it's fun to watch. And now we talked about Friday. It was fun. It was great being there. All the Maryland fans were gone by halftime.
Yeah.
But Northwestern, as you mentioned, it does not get any easier. I mean, they have what is the toughest schedule in the Big Ten. At least it was heading into the season. That has not really changed. One of the toughest schedules in the country. You got Wisconsin coming up next, is coming off of 2 blowouts. I mean, they are playing a lot better than they were last year, as a lot of teams are in the Big Ten. So this is a big win, but does this change your outlook on where Northwestern is in terms of where they're going to finish this season? They're 3-3 right now. They'd love to be bowl eligible again, but getting 3 wins with the upcoming game that they have will not be so easy. So what do you guys think? Will Northwestern be bowl eligible for a second straight year?
I mean, it's tough, right? Because you talk about those 3 wins. I mean, you've got Wisconsin, Iowa, Purdue.
Purdue's winnable. Like
Purdue's
you got to win Purdue. Like
then it gets very difficult. Ohio State, Michigan, Illinois, all ranked opponents. So you almost think it kind of has to come in the next 3 games. Wisconsin is going to be very tough, right? Even just looking at next week. You know, Iowa away, right? Can you pull off both of those? I think Northwestern there's a shot, right? I mean, if they can play the way they played against Maryland last week, I think there's absolutely a shot. But I don't think it's very likely, if I'm being honest.
I think like one of the good takeaways you can take from like the last 2 games as a Northwestern fan is that obviously this week was a win, but last week against Indiana they didn't make it easy, right? And I think with this schedule, like you have these big Big Ten teams, Wisconsin, Ohio State might be out of the reach, but like definitely like maybe Illinois or something, these opponents that are like upper middle Big Ten who have to go into Northwestern and make sure they're on their game, right?
Yeah.
And I think if they can pull out a surprise against Illinois or maybe against like definitely have to win Purdue, Wisconsin, I think I watched like about a quarter against Rutgers. They look phenomenal.
The offense is firing on all cylinders.
And Rutgers is a pretty solid team on its own, and to beat them 42-7 is crazy. But like that said, like Wisconsin can't go into Northwestern expecting an easy win. I think that's a good thing to take away for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Northwestern, we've had an upset last year that got them bowl eligible, which means we have a shot this year, but it's going to be tough. I was going to bring up the Indiana game as well. Tough loss, but also put up a tough game, and there was some really good football there that I hope we can keep seeing as the schedule advances.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough. And another factor for Northwestern is you play next week at Wisconsin at the Lake, and after that, I mean, if we're being honest, they're basically playing all road games, because I know you guys weren't here last year, but I was at the Wrigley game last year, and those are Northwestern home games, but those are not Northwestern home games. Last year, it was probably 9-1 Iowa fans. This year, their 2 Wrigley games are against Ohio State. Obviously, they're going to travel well. And Illinois, I mean, there's going to be plenty of Illini fan there. So it's tough for Northwestern. Not only are they playing all these great teams, I mean, Michigan, Ohio State, Illinois, who's good this year, and Wisconsin, who's playing great football, Iowa, again, on the road. But they're playing basically all of them to opposing crowds. So it's definitely possible. I mean, the fact that they went on the road in Maryland and did that gives you a lot of hope. But we will have to see. The Wisconsin game, I think if they want to be bowl eligible, is a must-win. Because like you're saying, if they don't get Wisconsin, to get 3 of those last few games, I don't know if it's going to happen. So it'll be a huge game. I mean, Luke Fickell has the Badgers rolling right now, so that'll be one to watch next week at 11 a.m. Bright and early football.
Yep.
We love Central Time. That's great. So we are now going to get things going on to some other Northwestern sports, and let's talk about men's soccer. They got their first conference win of the season, and that feels good for them because, I mean, they entered the season ranked. one of the top teams in the country, and for whatever reason, the Big Ten comes, and the offense just kind of at a standstill. So they beat Rutgers on the road. That was also on Friday. Tell me, well, for you guys, like, what are the vibes after that win? Is this a sign of things to change for Northwestern? Not that Rutgers is necessarily the strongest opponent, but are things starting to turn in the right direction, or is this really just a blip and they're going to keep doing more of the same?
Well, I feel like anytime you're a team in a rut, Gers.
I like it. Very, very nice. I'm a big pun guy.
A good come from behind victory is like the best medicine you could get. I think, especially given the expectations for this team heading into the year, I think it's like something that's sorely needed. You wonder how much time is left in the season to kind of make back that ground, but definitely like, there's still like the Big Ten tournament, etc. Like there's still a lot for this team to be proud of at the end of the season if they build from this game.
Yeah, I think it's hard to say what may and will happen for Northwestern the rest of the season, but at the very least, a win feels good for any team in a rut.
Yeah, and I saw this game for an assignment for the Daily, and really, it was really encouraging to see how much the team fought. Like, I mean, they've taken a lot of, gut punches. I mean, UCLA 1-0, Maryland 2-1, Michigan State 1-0. I mean, these are close losses. The team, they were talking about how a lot of those games they felt like they could have won, right? And they ended up losing, and they started 0-4 in conference play, bottom of the table. They're still bottom of the table with 3 points. 1 point off of Rutgers with 4. So, it's a tough road ahead, but on the broadcast, I thought it was interesting. They were talking about how Northwestern, if they can string together a few wins here at the end of the season, they're still in contest for an at-large spot for the NCAA tournament. They're not ruling it, out of any kind of possibility because they had such a strong start, right? They had a 4-win start, the first in program history. So I think this is exactly what they needed, and if they can take that momentum, they might be able to turn the season around.
Yeah, and you really hope they can, because it always is. It's always a gut punch when you enter the season so highly ranked and feeling like you can be one of the better teams in the Big Ten, and then conference play rolls around and they just can't figure it out. So, and I think with the talent on this team, the expectations they had, I think you're right, Tomas, that like a few quality wins, if they could string together here in the second half of the season, tournament is not out of the question at all. We'll definitely be keeping an eye on the men. And the women, they have been struggling as well. Still have not gotten their first conference win. They lost today to UCLA. No, not UCLA. USC, other LA Big Ten team. Which is weird thing. I'm still not used to this.
Weird thing
This
to
is
say.
very weird. They lost to USC today. But their next game is against Michigan. Michigan, not one of the stronger teams in the conference. They've only won one game of the Big Ten this season. So, guys, really quick, but do you think Northwestern will finally get that first conference win for the women's soccer team?
I mean, my reading of the team, at least from like the games that I've watched, is like I think they've been a bit unlucky in the way they've played. Like close losses against UCLA, an absolute golazo, like outside the box, top corner, and a really strong defensive performance otherwise. Like this team is so close, I think, and like a lot of like ties and close losses, and they go up like a goal in like the 80th minute and then concede 2 really late. I mean, like this team like just is like an opponent like Michigan that's kind of weaker is kind of where you flip the switch, right? Yeah. And like I think like one game it's the difference between losing, like conceding 2 goals at the very end and scoring those 2 goals yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a team that you see has a lot of fight in them, and even the places where there are, say, deficits are places where there can definitely be concrete improvements by the end of the season.
Yeah.
And I mean, and they've shown that they can beat quality opposition before. You go back to September, they beat number 21 at the time, Virginia Tech 1-0. So they've shown they can do it before, like Sid was saying, just a bit unlucky. Like look at the game against Iowa, last second goal. I think that, they should be able to beat Michigan, and if they do that, they only have 3 games left in the season, and then it's the Big Ten tournament, so it's now or never.
Yeah, it's definitely a big opportunity with the season winding down for Northwestern women's soccer. And I totally realized I didn't put this on the rundown. I thought I did, but we had to talk field hockey because they had a massive massive game today against Harvard. They won 3-2. So, I mean, this is a team that has been incredible. They're, at this point, number 2. We'll see if the rankings change when they come out. But, I mean, it's been fun to watch. A lot of close games. They're 13-0, but not totally cruise control. They beat Harvard today, number 9. So, just, if you're Northwestern, you got Stanford, UC Davis coming up, Michigan. Finally, some unranked opponents after what has really been a gauntlet. How does that feel getting that big win today at home against Harvard?
I mean, you talk about that gauntlet, right? I mean, they've played against Harvard, Penn State, Princeton, Maryland. These are all ranked teams. All ranked teams. And they've beaten every single one. So, I mean, 13-0, there's not much more you can ask of this team. And, assuming that they continue this same momentum, they should be able to run the table here. I mean, up until the end of the season, going to the Big Ten tournament. So really, I mean, for this team, the sky's the limit. You got to imagine they're championship contenders.
Yeah, this is a team that definitely stands out all around as dominant and coming out of, as we've described it, the gauntlet. Really, this should be perhaps some smooth sailing up ahead.
And like right now, for these kinds of dominant teams, when they have like a couple like not you want to say softballs, but definitely softer than the opponents you've already gone through. Now is all about building momentum for the tournament. Getting the players who don't normally see the field too often, getting them some fitness in, and like really, really making sure you have a from top to bottom like a really dominant squad.
Yeah, and I mean it's been fun to keep track of and follow this year. The field hockey team. I mean they were basically just as good last year, and they continue that dominance. And yeah, certainly should be a contender for the national title. Before we move on here, one more sport to cover, and that is volleyball. And they're a team that has been struggling as well. They lose to Ohio State on Thursday in 3 sets. They lose to Wisconsin on the road today in 3 sets. And this is a team that's fighting, right? I mean, like when you look at the schedule, you see all these like 1-3, 3-0 losses, right? And it looks bad. But really, I mean, they've been playing pretty well and keeping with some of these teams, and they just lose them right at the end of sets. So, that being said, if you guys step in the role of Tim Nolan, their head coach, what do you say to this team? Like, what's the message to get them back on track in what has been definitely a transition year, but still, you want to compete. So, what would you guys say?
I mean, it's tough, right? 3-11 overall. They've lost 5 games in a row. They lost today again against Wisconsin, on the road. Number 9 ranked Wisconsin. Yeah. And it's like you mentioned. It looks like 3-0, but you actually watch the game, and this you'll have a close set. You'll have a couple close sets. So it's not it's not like they're getting absolutely destroyed. It just looks like it. So I think it's all about just team morale, right? Motivation. You got to keep spirits up, right? There's plenty of games left in the season. Plenty of winnable games left in the season. I mean, they're not going to be top of the Big Ten. That's not going to happen. That's just not going to happen. But just stringing some wins together, they've got Iowa coming up, UCLA, a couple games here at home. Just find a way to just put in that grit, put in that effort, and hopefully get some wins here in conference play.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I watched a bit of the Ohio State game, and a stat from the box score I highlighted was Ohio, on Aces, Ohio State 11, Northwestern 2, right? And I think that's kind of one of those areas where, I mean, I'm no volleyball expert by any means, but sometimes it's those split second are you in the right position? Are you keyed into the game? And when you're in big losing streaks, it can be hard. Sometimes you miss that split second decision. Sometimes you're in the wrong spot when if you had won the last game that you'd be in the right spot. And sometimes just getting the mental focus right, they're getting to 25-23 sets. They're getting to 26-24 sets. It's just finishing it out that can be and sometimes it can be so much more painful to go through a set. You do all that work just to get to match, to get to the tie-breaking point, and then you lose. They're so close, and they just have to have the confidence to get over that hump.
Yeah, definitely. I think building off of what we're talking about morale, team spirit, and mindset. Sammy, you mentioned this is a team that has a lot of fight in them. I think if I'm putting myself in the role of Tim Nolan, I'm telling the team, to take that fight, but make sure they bring it with them through the end of these sets, making sure they're not losing these sets in the end.
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned before, this is a team that has gone through a lot of change, had coach change. I mean, really, like 3 of their 4 top scorers from last year are gone. I mean, and transfers, graduate, what have you. But it's a tough situation for them to be in. But like, the exciting thing is, 3-11 is not exciting. That's bad. But it's exciting to see when you're watching the games. The pieces. I mean, Kennedy Hill has been great. Summers has been really fun to watch. Bouze Hazan has shown flashes of being able to be a legit scoring threat. So there's a lot of pieces that are kind of coming together, and it'll be exciting to see if they can string together some wins, because I really have faith that something will click, and by the end of the year, not that they're going to make the tournament, obviously that ship has really already sailed, but just as a morale thing, they could string a few together to end the season. So that's going to wrap up our Northwestern sports segment. But it's now time for a fun game that we play on SportsVoice called Pick'em. And you guys this is your first time on the show, so I'll just take it as an opportunity to explain what we do. This is a favorite classic on SportsVoice. So basically, we have 3 rounds of this game, and Claire and I, we think of the most random things. Sometimes it's sports related, sometimes it's not. And you guys just have to pick, we give you a prompt, and you just have to pick something. And then we usually Claire and I together, but today it'll just be me. We decide a winner, and it's a little fun game. I know you guys are all friends, right? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that will make this really fun. I'm very glad you guys all know each other. That makes me very happy. So, we'll start off with our first one. And some of these are ones I think that we did last year, but I had a really fun time with them. And, it's a new year, right? And new season, so we're going to run them back. So, as sports fans, we all have one moment that we want to relive again and again. I know what mine would be. Maybe I'll say it at the end as a little fun bonus answer. But I want to hear from you guys. What is the sports moment that you guys would want to relive, and why that moment? So, whoever wants to go first.
I can go first, and if I can, I like to take it a little bit outside the box with my sport pick, which is I'm a Formula One fan, and so I think my moment is going to be actually a recent one. That's going to be Lewis Hamilton's 2024 Silverstone win. I mean, I really had the incredible experience of going to that race and being there. I mean, the atmosphere was electric, and I choose that moment because not everyone came in a Lewis Hamilton fan, but when he's there at his home racetrack, and after coming off of a few rough years, finally getting that win, I mean, everyone left a Lewis Hamilton fan.
Yeah.
And that's just an incredible.
And where was this race?
Silverstone's in England. Yeah.
England. Okay, England. Yeah. Okay. I've had some friends into F1 that got me into it, and so I'm kind of trying to remember all the things. Okay, but Lewis Hamilton, I do know.
Yes.
So yes, you were there.
Yeah, I was there.
That's electric. Okay,
yeah,
that's awesome.
He's doing a victory lap and he's waving the flag, and it was just a moment that I think is unparalleled. It's a sport that brings people from all different, countries and backgrounds together, and really it's a unifying moment to see a legend like that get such a crucial win. It was a record-breaking win. That was my moment.
And on the note of kind of international games and being there, I'm going to take you back to September of 2016. It's the 2018 World Cup qualifying cycle, and Peru is struggling greatly. We're not doing well at all.
So you're
Yes,
approved? Okay,
yes.
awesome.
I lived there at the time, and
great.
my dad got me tickets to the game. I had never been to a Peru game before. It's 2016, I was 10 years old. And so we're not doing very well. People don't believe in the team. As always, we haven't been to the World Cup since 1982. Same old, same old. And I go to the game against Ecuador, and we're tied 2-2. Or sorry, 1-1. We're tied 1-1. Getting ahead of myself. We're tied 1-1, and it's getting to the end of the game, and this is a must-win. If Peru doesn't win this game, it's pretty much over. And we get a goal with about 12 minutes to go, and I went to the game with my dad and my uncle, and the stadium erupts. Everyone goes crazy. The game ends. We win, and there's hope. There's a little glimmer of hope. The road to Russia. Will we make the World Cup? We end up making the World Cup, historically. But that was kind of the spark that led to that run. And then being there, being in the stadium, seeing the stadium erupt, especially at that age, that just had a huge imprint on me.
going to a soccer game in South America, if it's not on your bucket list, put it on your
Absolutely.
bucket list right now.
It is now after hearing this
100%.
Yeah,
story.
I mean,
Have
like,
you been to a soccer game? in South
I
America?
haven't been,
Okay.
but like the atmospheres,
It's-
it does not compare to like, and it's not just like the top South American like World Cup qualifying. It's the Brazilian 4th division will have like 60,000 fans show up to a game. It is completely different from anything you'll see in the United States. But I will also pick a soccer game, and mine is the 2023 MLS Cup. I was also there. That story really starts in 2017. So in 2017, my hometown team, the Columbus Crew, it's the original. It was the first ever MLS team announced in 1996. Really, really historic. Small market team. First stadium ever constructed in MLS in 1998. But it was like basically a steel cage, literally just laying the roots down. But really, really historic team, and like the fans really made it possible, right? But in 2017, the owner threatened to move the team to Austin, Texas, and largely citing that fan attendance had gone down, that the stadium was old. It had been around for, I guess, 19 years at that point, but there was a ton of newer infrastructure in MLS that was really, really impressing beyond that. But fans really rallied around to save the team, and really through fans and like lawyers who were also fans and like public pressure, they got the current Browns owners, the Haslams, to purchase the team alongside the team doctor, who also has a stake in the team now. They hired a president who was the new club president is from Westerville, which is a suburb of Ohio, of Columbus. But really from there, they built a new stadium downtown, opened in 2021, and really the crowning moment of the last 6 years. It was 6 years ago on the 12th that they announced that they had saved the team. But the crowning moment was 2023 MLS Cup against LA, a huge market team, big stars, big names, and they got beaten by these guys who, like, virtually no one outside of Columbus knows. And, like, just the proud thing about being a small market fan is that the players really come to be part of the family, right?
Yeah.
They don't go there for money, they don't go there for fame. They go there because it's a good place to raise their family. It's a good place to be known in a tight-knit community. And that was really special for me because it was basically the crowning moment of everything that the entire city had worked for over the last, 7 years.
Wow. Yeah. I don't know if I genuinely don't know if I'm going to be able to pick one of those. I'm going to, reveal my eventual answers at the end. I may just not pick, because, you guys actually all gave really good answers. I love, the heart and soul, of what you guys gave, right? I mean, because that's really, at the end of the day, what sports about. Hamilton waving the flag, and, Peru, right? World Cup, and then a small market team, trying to stay. I mean, which is very relevant. I know before the show, me and Ruben and I were talking about the Oakland A's. Yeah, that's always what I think of as a baseball fan. It makes me very sad. But it is cool to see when a small market team does kind of get what they want, and they get the team to stay. So, 3 really good moments.
Absolutely,
wow.
As an A's fan, I'm incredibly jealous,
Yeah.
but also it's heartwarming
Well,
to see
maybe you should have
team
followed the
win for
model.
once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually,
The blueprint.
it's interesting. One of the main reasons why the Crew were actually stayed in Columbus was because of a law that they passed in Ohio after the Browns had moved, because they moved to Baltimore.
Interesting.
So it's
Right.
That's
interesting.
they
how that
set
plays together. Yeah.
after that it was never again. Right?
Wow. Yeah.
Oakland missed the mark on that one.
Yeah.
But you guys all gave great answers for that. I'm really loving it. We are going to move to the next one, and these next two are a little. We'll be fun. So, this is called X Factor, which is a Lauryn Hill song. I don't know if any of you guys listen to Lauryn Hill. I love that song. But anyways, this is about sports. Sports are filled with heroes. In any sport, pick a player who you would want on the field with the game on the line. It's a question I think we've had this conversation with our friends a million times, right? But I want to hear who your answers are. So, yeah, we started with Ruby last time, so we'll do the opposite order. So we'll do Sid first.
Okay. I I feel like it's got to be LeBron, right? Like
Sure.
3-1.
Are you a Cavs fan from Ohio?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I would say so.
Gotcha.
But like, I mean, being down 3-1 in the NBA Finals, every single moment is a clutch moment for like 3 games straight, and I don't think, like, as far as like a performance in clutch time, I mean, people on Twitter will make fun of him for his record in NBA Finals, but it really does not get more clutch than that, especially with the team he was working with. I mean, for a couple of those years when like it was always Cavs versus Warriors, the Cavs had no business being in the finals without LeBron. I mean, like, you can pull up the infamous meme of LeBron like arms outstretched looking at J.R. Smith like, how could you do this? How could you?
Do you guys watch SNL or anything?
Yeah.
You know the SNL skit. It was from that year. And it was like
LeBron
and the Cavs. It's a classic. But that says it all. Yeah.
I mean, like, it really does not get more clutch than that, I think.
Yeah. As a Peruvian fan, I understand the wrath of the Argentine national team, and more specifically the wrath of Lionel Messi. I mean, this guy, like, you play against him and you are quaking in your boots because, you know, maybe now he's slowing down a bit, but in his prime, I mean, there was absolutely nothing you could do against that magician. I mean, you know, and even look at the 2022 World Cup, which is probably his crowning moment, right? Like, you know, you look at that final. Every time Argentina needed him, he showed up, right? Every single time. After all the defeats of the past, right? All the experience he had accumulated, sure, physically maybe he wasn't the same, but, you know, mentally, he's just so intelligent. His IQ is off the charts. And he knows what moves to make. I mean, I would not want anyone else taking that penalty than Messi.
I mean, for me, you know, I went with Formula 1 last time. Now I'm sticking to maybe what I know a bit more, which is baseball.
All right.
And I was thinking about the prompt. I was considering saying, like, one of my GOATs, but then actually I think if I'm thinking about that X factor, you know, and who's got something that I think is a little special, I think for me, honestly, right now, it's Royals shortstop Bobby Witt Jr. And I know this is coming off of like the last week or so maybe a bit of a not a hot take but an unfortunate one, right? But I think he's not just a solid player. He's young, he's determined, and especially after getting this taste of the postseason thrill, I think that's what makes him the real like X Factor hero for me, is that he's hungry for it, and you can tell that. With the game on the line, there really is no magic fix, but I think he's really just got the attitude of someone who will stick with the game until that final out, and that's what gives him that X Factor feeling for me.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy who's already, I feel like, had a lot of big moments in his career. I mean, he's obviously incredibly young, has so much more time, and I mean, the fact that he carried this Royals team to where they got this year, right? I mean, because they're a team that I think is still on the upward trajectory. They're still getting better, of course. So the fact that Witt was, I mean, he was. I don't want to discount the rest of that team because there were some dudes, but like he was the train conductor very much on the Royals. So just really, that's a great answer. All great answers. I mean, LeBron, Messi, GOATs. Last one. So it is obviously MLB playoffs going on right now. Walk-up songs are hype. Like it's really fun. When I played high school baseball, we got to pick a walk-up song. It was electric. Like we got to do it like senior year, last few weeks. It was awesome. I had so much fun with it. So I want to hear what songs you guys are picking if you're walking up to the plate.
I'm gonna start with you this time.
Sure. So, growing up as a Chicago Bulls fan, watching NBC Sports Chicago, rest in peace.
Yeah. Chicago Sports Network. How about it?
It's there. It's there.
It exists. Yeah.
It's not the same. But you know, I would religiously watch the Chicago Bulls, and every time I watched the starting lineup, because they would broadcast it, and they would start with Sirius, right? The classic. I mean, it's famous from the Jordan days, but they still use it to this day. There is nothing that hypes me up like Sirius. That's absolutely my pick. If I'm going up to the plate, not that I have a lot of baseball experience, I might have a little bit of blind confidence, but I will feel very confident listening to Sirius.
Good pick.
Like last night, I saw the clip of Emmanuel Clase walking out for the closing like 2 innings of the Game 5 against the Tigers, and I almost picked Wild Thing because it was in my head so much. But I think I'm gonna go a little silly. Right in by Chameleonaire. They see me rolling, they hate it.
Classic Sid.
Classic.
Yeah, I think for me, what makes a good walk-up song is something that's a combination of, hype, popular but not overplayed, but also a third factor, which I think is something that's going to get the crowd singing along, because it's for the player, but also if the crowd gets into it, they're going to bring that energy with them way past that second short clip of the song. And for me, what comes to mind really is Chapel Roan's "Hot to Go," and can I shout out the Northwestern Marching Band?
Yeah,
that,
Hot to Go.
when they put on "Hot to
It is
Go"
true.
at the games, and they've got the whole student section doing the dance, that's awesome.
The way you set that up, I almost thought you were gonna say Fiend.
They do play Fiend as well,
They do
but
also play
it doesn't really get the
Yes.
crowd as going
No,
as much as Chapel
not
Roan.
like Hot to Go.
Those are 3 good answers. All right, now is the worst part where I have to actually choose. All right, let me just thinking. All right, so we'll go backwards here. So for walk-up song, Tomas, I gotta go with you. I mean,
There we go.
I don't know if you know I'm a Bulls fan, but I am also a Bulls fan.
Yeah.
So like,
Catering to the crowd, man. I mean,
Yeah.
You gotta love it.
Hey,
Chicago
look,
sports.
you know-
Chicago sports.
he knows what it's like. No, but seriously, Sirius is there's nothing that gets me going like Sirius.
Yeah.
I mean, that is
Absolutely.
like watching the old videos, especially
That too,
in the,
yeah,
like,
yeah, the
in
retro
the-
ones,
with the
yeah,
'90s
it's great.
Bulls.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's really cool. So that's a very good pick. For X Factor, this is a tough one, and I think I'm gonna have to go with Sid. I mean, unfortunately, I'm not as big of a soccer guy, so I'm not as familiar with Messi. But what LeBron has done, I mean, like, he is, even at this age that he's at, and you could say the same thing about Messi, right? But even at this, is he 40 yet?
Yeah.
39?
He's
something?
he's ageless at this point.
Right, like, I mean, you still
39,
want him on the floor.
39 turns 30 on December 30th.
Wow.
39 going on 30. Yeah.
39.
Going on 40.
Of course.
Excuse
The
me.
way he
Turning
plays,
40.
that's
He's gonna
awesome.
reset.
Turning 40, but
But yeah, LeBron is a guy that you want. And that's a great, but all good ones, the Bobby Witt one was really original. I think maybe like 5 years from now, I think
Oh, no.
he'll
Yeah,
be
have
up
it.
there for sure.
I think he's got the X spark right now, and it's gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, for Time Machine, as I said, you guys all give really good answers. I'm gonna go with Tomas though. I think like there's something. I'm not a soccer fan, as I said, but there's something so cool about like one of the things I love about the World Cup, and the reason I watch it, and that's like the only soccer I watch like once every 4 years.
4 years.
4 years. Is like I think it's so cool, like the patriotism and like
Yeah.
the country
It
aspect
really
of
brings
it,
the
and
country
like
together.
that is like that's like people like it brings people together. Like that's really cool, and I think you can say the same thing for Lewis Hamilton, and you can say the same thing for Columbus, right? But I think this about the country coming together, right? And for a soccer team that you were saying like isn't particularly like hasn't made World Cups, right? Like that's being there for that really really cool. So yeah, you guys did a really good job on that. We have about 20 minutes left, so a little behind schedule here, but we are having so much fun that it doesn't matter. We're gonna now get into some national sports talk, and we're gonna start with baseball. I know Ruby is a big baseball fan. That is exciting.
Do love some baseball.
And I'm excited to talk some baseball. So, Division Series just wrapped up, and honestly, this is some of the most fun I've had watching playoff baseball in a while. Like, I'd say this is the most fun playoffs to this point since maybe like 2019. I really love
Absolutely.
2019. And I'm from the DC area, not a Nats fan, but like that was just a crazy run.
Oh, yeah.
So there were 4 division series, of course. Which one did you guys enjoy most? I honestly have a tough time choosing because they were all so fun.
I'm gonna steal Guardians Tigers first.
Yeah.
I had a
Hey,
lot of
you guys
fun.
can take the same one. There's no harm in that.
But yeah, I think like Midwest rivalry, like it's just gonna be a lot of fun. I think so many good moments in the series, like the Guardians being shut out for I think it was like 20 something innings between game 1 and game 4, and like just pulling out the resolve to find 2 wins, like in a best of 5. I thought was really special, and I mean Lane Thomas's grand slam in game.
What a
5
moment!
was.
I mean, there was I have a friend. have you guys met Braden Olson of WNUR yet? Maybe not. Okay,
I don't think
he's
so.
a sophomore. You will meet him at some point. But he's getting a shout out right now. I'll have to tell him this. But he's a big Guardians fan, And I saw that after the Tomas home run, it was like this aerial view of progressive field, and like it literally like the place is bouncing. Genuinely, I mean, a really cool moment. So I sent that reel to him on Instagram. I was like, dude, this is awesome. But yeah, the Guardians. I mean, what a series for them. I mean, going up Game 5 against School, it's great. I mean, it wasn't easy, but like they got some runs off them. They got him out of the game, and then after that, you feel pretty good.
First comeback win for the Guardians in Game 4 since like 1997 too, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a big upset.
Yeah. But so even coming out of that series, I saw a tweet that I saved here, and it has the payrolls for the 4 teams in the championship and the CSs. It's Mets $335 million, Dodgers $325 million, Yankees $302 million, Guardians $103 million.
Yeah.
They are like
they're money
huge
balling
money
it.
on huge money ball right now.
Mm-hmm.
And like I think if you are a fan who likes supporting underdogs in sports, it doesn't get much better than the Guardians against the Yankees.
Yeah, I mean, you could make the argument about the Mets and the Dodgers. I know the Mets have the massive payroll, but considering what they've been through this year, does anyone have the Mets as their favorite series?
I was gonna say the Mets and
All right,
the Phillies,
let's
honestly.
hear it.
It was painful. I've got family in Philly, and so I was rooting for them a little bit, but this is a team you can't control, honestly. Right now, like
Can't control Grimace.
Oh, definitely not.
Yeah.
We're talking about the payroll, but they don't really have that sort of star power that, say, the Yankees or the Dodgers do have, and that's what makes their performance, I mean, even more special and stand out in my eyes. I mean, they're doing great, but I mean, to the point about the Guardians, it's great to see a team like that and a performance like that from that team. Really, I mean, these like coastal teams tend to be sort of more dominant, right? And so to have a team like the Guardians,
I mean, all year they've been doing it. I mean,
it's just like that's just something to me that's so emblematic of baseball, and I've been loving it. Yeah,
Tomas, what was your favorite series?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. It was definitely Tigers Guardians.
No, that's totally fair.
But yeah, I mean, looking at the Dodgers Padres series, right? I mean,
it
was fun, right?
Close,
3-2. It was very, very close.
A lot of storylines.
I thought the Padres would be able to get it out there in the end, but it was the Dodgers.
I was rooting for them.
Yamamoto shoved in that Game 5.
Yeah.
They needed him. Yeah.
And I mean, I know a lot of people. Dodgers not the most popular fan base in the league.
Yeah.
Not necessarily.
But hey, they won fair and square. They're winning 6-0 against the Mets right now, by the way.
Well, right, yeah, I totally.
Top of the 5th.
It's been such a crazy day for it. I totally forgot to tune into
It's
that.
not
Lots
close.
of sports.
Wait, it's Dodgers 6-0.
6-0.
Oh wow!
So,
all right. Well, if you're listening to SportsVoice, they're breaking news, I guess.
Yeah, they are looking good right now. 3 runs in the 4th.
Not good for the Magic Mets, I guess.
No,
right
not good
now.
for us.
Right after I came off saying all that.
Oh, there.
I'm really surprised by the Dodgers in a way, honestly, because they have these incredibly dominant
So many stars.
players. I mean, Yamamoto, they got
Super dude.
Otani, it's just incredible. But I think in the past they've struggled to really turn that into a team, right? And it's not just a collection of guys they have. And this year, I mean, they might be doing it. They might be doing it, but we'll have to see how they fare.
Well,
days.
There was a fun interview with Kike Hernandez, and I can't repeat it on air.
Oh my gosh.
But essentially, what he said was, "We are playing this well because we don't care." Right? Yeah, you can listen to the real sound, but I won't say it on air.
Paraphrase.
But paraphrasing. But like that is what the Dodgers are doing. I mean, like, and you could kind of feel it with them. So, bouncing off that, I want to get to our predictions here, and we have a little bit of a spoiler here with as NLCS has started, but with that considered or without considering that, it's only a few innings of one game. What do we think is going to happen here in the NLCS and ALCS?
I'll tell you what. Dodgers and Mets are just playing for who's going to lose to the Guardians in the World Series.
All right.
I think it's a little bit of a hot take.
Yeah, maybe.
Big Ohio guy.
But I mean, they've got. I mean, Clase, like when it comes to like guys you want, and then like he's the best closer in baseball right now.
God, yeah. You do not want, like, when he's in the game, except for that one early in the DS where he kind of choked, like or maybe that was the wild. I think
No, they didn't play the wild card.
they didn't play the wild. No. Yeah, no, it must have been the DS.
I think it was game 1.
Yeah, it was game 1. I think it's all blending together. But except for that one game, like he is basically like he comes in the game and it's over, which is not. Yeah, it's crazy.
But I mean, it'll be an uphill battle. I'm sure, like, if I'm on here next week, they're gonna we're gonna be revisiting that. Like, Sid, what were you talking about here? What were you doing here? But yeah, I'll just put that out there.
Yeah, I'm gonna go against the grain. Give me Grimace. They might be losing 6-0 right now, but the New York Mets, they have the energy. Like, you know, like, have you seen the videos, like, in the subway, where, like, all the fans, they go in with Grimace? Now, I know that has nothing to do with what actually happens.
Absolutely.
But it's the vibes. It's the
Vibes.
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 You know, like,
Vibes are huge.
like,
You're
New York
not
City,
considering the vibes.
like, it's always Yankees, right? It's always about the Yankees. And I feel like this is the Mets year. This is the Mets time. They might be struggling in game one. Hey, it's a long series. They got some time. Give me the Mets.
Would you be in support of a Subway Series?
That would be
I was
awesome.
I was gonna ask.
That would be
That would be.
If you have the Mets, who are they against then?
Just for the vibes.
The Subway
Give me a
Series.
Subway Series in the
The
World Series.
The national
That
TV
would-
networks would love
That would be insane.
I mean, like, that would be
more
I mean,
awesome.
honestly,
The
like,
Guardians would be more
the
wholesome.
networks would just love for the Guardians to lose for the. I
Yeah,
mean, New York,
the networks are
LA,
definitely
New
rooting
York,
against-
New York,
Yeah.
like
The networks are
either
rooting
way,
against the
you're-
Guardians. I
Yes.
think all the other ones are big markets, and then you got Cleveland.
Uh-huh. Little old Cleveland.
Yeah, in addition to society as a whole being against Guardians of the powers that be, I don't know if I can
Whoa.
put them in my predictions at all. But I think they would be a fun, really great team to make it to the series. I'm just not sure if I can predict it. But I think a Subway Series would be, to use your word, electric, honestly. But I gotta go Tomas. Give me Grimace.
Yeah, there we go.
Ohio versus the world, man. Ohio versus the world.
Sid will stay in the Ohio trade no matter what.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I'm really excited for these championship series and whatever comes next. I mean, I think any way you slice it, I feel like the World Series matchup will be fun, and there will be awesome storylines.
Yeah.
I'm very excited. So we'll definitely be keeping an eye on that. I do want to talk some NFL because I know Tomas is a Bears fan, and I'm a Bears fan, and we're having a great day. We wake up, right? I know I was actually on the East Coast
So
this
it was
morning, so it
7:30.
was a little bit
Or no,
later.
it was 9:30.
It was 9:30. So I got a little more sleep maybe than you did.
Yeah.
But bright and early, eating breakfast, whatever, and the Bears, a little bit of a rough start in the first quarter, but they end up playing really well. Caleb Williams is coming into his own. Jaden Daniels today, another young quarterback, played well. They end up falling to the Ravens.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling Tomas and I may be in agreement here. But for these two young quarterbacks who've kind of dominated a lot of storylines this year, who would you rather have for the next decade? And you could very well go with both of them, but like if you got to choose one, who are you taking?
I mean,
I know you're probably going Caleb, right?
as
I
a
hope.
Bears fan,
You have to go Caleb.
It has to be
You're
Caleb.
required.
Caleb,
Yeah,
I mean, it's just so impressive. I was down at UIUC this morning, so I watched the game down there. Lots of Bears fans there too, and it was just, it's been so long. I mean, we've never had
It has been never.
It's been never.
It has
really,
been
to
never.
be honest. We've never had
Yeah.
a quarterback even throw for 4,000 yards, right? So
It has been never.
he might be the first one. But just to see a quarterback just like, I mean, it's so natural to him, right? 4 touchdowns. I mean, sure, there was an interception, but overall, it doesn't really matter. It was an excellent performance by the Bears. I mean,
Yeah.
we're 4-2. It's a tough division so far, but just the fact that we're there and we're contending, right? And so much of that has to do with Caleb Williams. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little skeptical at first. I was a big Fields guy.
As we all were. I was a big Fields guy.
I love
had to,
Fields. I
I
still
had to
love
very
Fields.
sadly put down all my Fields merchandise. It was a rough day this summer, but right now I'm a believer.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Caleb has been awesome, and the fact that he's surrounded by what seems to be an incredible sporting cast.
Yes.
Keenan Allen had a game today
The
for
receiving
the first time.
yeah,
as a
finally.
Bear. Finally. Roma Dunze is going to be great for years to come. DJ Moore is awesome. And then I feel like the coaching staff's done a good job with him. And really the big thing is that the defense is backing them up.
Yeah.
Like even when Caleb Williams was not playing well, like first week he did not play well at all against the Titans. But the defense picked them up, scored like 2 touchdowns basically. I mean, one of them was a punt.
Yeah.
And the offense didn't need to do anything. And that's
Right.
perfect. They've given him the leeway to be able to settle into being an NFL quarterback. And now he's settled in, and like the league should be worried because, I mean, not that the Jaguars are an incredible team,
Not by any means.
but like that was as convincing as winnings you're going to get in the NFL.
Yeah.
So, what are you guys? What's the vibe?
I don't consider myself a Browns fan for my mental health.
Understandable.
Yeah. But really, anyone but Deshaun Watson.
Mhm.
Honestly, my clarifying question about the Caleb Williams or Daniels thing is, if you pick Caleb Williams, are you stuck with the Bears for the next 10 years?
That's a good question, but he could say the same thing. I mean, because not like the Commanders have had too much more success than the
exactly,
Bears
exactly.
That's true.
in the past, really since I've been alive.
But
two rough franchises that have had a rough go of things.
But really, I think if you're a kind of franchise like the Bears or the Commanders, I think you want Caleb Williams. Like, I think he has more promise as far as like building a team.
And it's interesting. I mean, it's such an interesting thing because like it'll be, I think 2 weeks from now they play each other, and it's such a cool storyline because Caleb Williams went to high school in the DC area. Gonzaga High School. Like he was like a senior, I think, when I was a freshman. Like I remember seeing stuff about him because as like a DMV football consumer, like it was like, and now he's on the Bears. But like the Commanders were at number 2, and like they very like if a few things roll different ways, he could have been playing for his hometown Commanders. So that'll be an interesting one to watch. Ruby, who are you going with? Caleb Williams, or are you going to go different here and go with Jaden Daniels?
I'm really not sure. I'm not uber dialed in on football, so I think.
No worries. Yeah.
I think I just got to stick with what's been said already. Honestly.
Good pick, because that is the right answer. That's the very, yeah.
Right.
That's the only correct answer on
Always gonna
SportsVoice.
go with what's right.
So, and I think in the interest of time, I do want to talk about some college football stuff real quick before we get to our last segment, because this may have been one of the most epic weekends ever of college football. I mean, like, a lot of great games. Oregon, and like, good games that, like, we expected to be good, and then they actually were good. Like, all these games lived up to the hype. Maybe not the Texas one, but, like, that's fun. I mean, like, Texas, they destroy Oklahoma. Oregon survives Ohio State at home. What an environment that is. The Oregon Duck was very happy.
Crowd surfing.
That's like, that's got to be the best mascot in sports. That might have to be another Wildcat Clash, but love the Oregon Duck. The Oregon Duck is great.
He's pretty good.
He's pretty good. I mean, he's up there. USC almost beats Penn State, but they survive. Alabama survives South Carolina. Florida looked good for the first time, really, and they give Tennessee a run for their money. Kansas State, they beat Coach Prime and the Buffaloes. So, real quick, just like kind of down the line here, what was a favorite game from this weekend for you guys?
I mean, besides the Northwestern game, of course.
Well, that's number one for all of us.
Besides the Northwestern
Of course.
Yes.
That Indiana-Purdue game, Illinois-Purdue game was absolutely
ridiculous.
bonkers.
I should have put this on the list.
That was
a crazy
insane. So I got to campus yesterday, or no, a couple days ago at UIUC, right like as the game was ending. So I didn't catch it. I didn't actually catch it, but I was following it along, and I was talking to people down there about the game, and they were really worried.
Illinois was up
Right.
24-3.
Yeah. And Purdue went on an absolute tear in the second half, and the Illinois fans, they were really, really concerned. They were about to drop a game that should have been absolutely winnable. And I mean, it ended up being a barn burner, right? I mean, 50-49. When do you ever see that score in football?
Yeah.
So that was just super fun.
Yeah, I looked at. I had to do a double take. I'm like,
Yeah.
did I see that right? Like,
It was
there's
just
no
insane.
way I could have been to the final score.
It was absolutely insane.
Yeah, and I mean, Purdue showing flashes, right? I mean, they end up losing, but like, Illinois could be a bit concerning, you know, as a team that you know, it should have been a pretty easy win, especially when they were up 24-3.
Right.
That's a good pick. One that I did not put on my little list here. Sid.
I kept a pretty close watch of the Ohio State Oregon game, being from Columbus. We talked about X Factor, and I'll give you one person who's not X Factor, and his name is Ryan Day. I mean, how many?
Not a Ryan Day guy.
I mean,
hey, that was his first regular season loss to a not Michigan team
Well,
in
yeah,
like
but
3 years or something.
the thing with Ohio State is that, I mean, like there are certain teams where they play against a bunch of teams that their fans expect them to win every single time, and like just winning against those teams is never enough, right? Like if you're Ohio State head coach, you have to beat Michigan, and everyone else, like, you're already expected to be beaten, right? Like, and just the feeling around the program now is that, like, if you're not beating these premier teams, then, I mean, we could beat them with or without. We could beat, like, we could beat, like, Marshall with or without you, right? And so what are you doing to add to that?
All right.
I might have to go with Alabama, just coming off of the week before.
Yeah.
Absolutely bonkers. Glad to see them escape South
Yeah.
Carolina in this game.
Yeah, no, Alabama, 2 not so great weeks over there down in Tuscaloosa. And with some college football talk, we are now going to head to our final segment
of the evening, which is Wildcat Clash. We don't have too much time, so just we'll keep it brief, unfortunately. But the segment usually when we have more time is kind of like a sports debate. I'll ask a question, you guys get the answer. Today's question, in the spirit of the MLB playoffs, what are the best playoffs in sports? Could be anything, national, college, you name it. Let's start with Tomas and go down the line.
Okay, so I'm gonna assume that this qualifies as playoffs. Give me the UEFA Champions League over in Europe, past the group stage, so round of 16 and on. It's absolutely electric. It's insane. You have these home and away matches between these like insanely passionate fans. I mean, you'll go over to Dortmund in Germany, 80,000, the Yellow Wall. You go to Madrid, London, Turin. I mean, you're going to all of these historic clubs that have been around for over 100 years, and they're playing each other to see who's the champion of Europe and, let's face it, probably the best club in the world, right? And you have just these insane figures, right, that transcend sport, the best players in the world. There's nothing really, in my opinion, that beats the UEFA Nations League knockout stage.
I hear what you're saying. I wonder, though, with the new format of being the whole Champions League, you have Man City beating up on Slovan Bratislava every week. It's I think, what was it, 9-2 or something? Bayern Munich versus a team from Croatia.
But we're talking knockout stages here, not the league stage.
I think we'll have to see who makes it out of the league phase first and see if things are going to be a little bit diluted later on. Going off of that, I almost would have said the World Cup, but expanding to 48 teams again almost dilutes it a ton. My original answer domestically would be the NBA final, the NBA playoffs. I think it's such a fast-paced game. I think it has the highest probability of improbable moments, if that makes sense. The games are almost always close. There are a ton of games, so there are always going to be a few that are going to be close in one series. And so, I think the way that a game can kind of turn on its head in a moment is, I think, something that not many other sports have, and I think that makes for a really entertaining watch. No matter usually I'm not really checked into basketball a lot, but I'll tune in for the finals and it'll be I'm guaranteed a good watch no matter what.
Yeah, I gotta say NBA is a good pick. I'm gonna be really, really unoriginal here, but I have to say what I think is right, which I am gonna say MLB. Honestly, the new expanded format. I'm the first person to criticize MLB sort of trying to turn into a reality TV moment. I'm a pitch clock hater. That's for another time.
We will have that discussion another time, for sure.
I'm really passionate about it, but I think MLB, baseball is a sport that demands a certain level of consistency, and that's true with the expanded format. But I think it also allows for some really awesome storylines, some really great upsets. Sometimes it's a hit or miss. Last year maybe a miss, but this year big hit. I'm really enjoying it this year, and so I'm going to say that's really exciting playoffs. But I got to concede NBA. It's a pretty good pick.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's tough to choose. I mean, I'm going to have to go with MLB. I'm a big baseball guy, and but I also think they kind of figured out a formula that works. I like, because you have the wild card, which is 3-game series, and then expand it to 5, and then expand it to 7, and it's relatively concise, but you still have that parity that comes with having a lot of games. I mean, they've really figured it out. I mean, just so many classic moments and unpredictability. I mean, it's just a lot of fun. But really, what was a lot of fun was today's episode of Sports Voice. Thank you guys all for coming on. I really had a great time. I hope you guys also had a good time. It was. We'd love to have you on again. Hopefully next time Claire will be back, and you guys will get to be on the show with her. But thank you guys for coming on. To those of you listening, whether it be on YouTube or on the air 89.3, thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate it. We had a fun time. We will be back next week, same time, 8 o'clock. Sports Voice, WNUR. We will be back after a fun week of a lot of sports. Thank you so much. I am Sammy Krimstein. Hope you all have a great night.
Yeah, we're off air.
Yeah, hey, you guys are great. Oh, they did that. And then I just turn on random noises. All right. Hey, you guys are great. Seriously, I had a great time.
Plus, you won pick 'em.
Yeah.
You didn't get a chance to properly celebrate because you lost. It's a winner.
Woo! Oh.
Where on campus you guys live?
North.
North. Oof. All three?
Shape.
Yeah, there.
Oh. Gotcha.
I gotta figure
I
out.
gotta do my journalism readings, man.